Hi, Jan. It is really great to be with you today. I've wanted to talk to you for so long, and I'm really grateful you said yes to joining me in conversation here. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to talk to you. Your voice alone is already making me feel better about the world. So here we go.
A voice for radio.
Yes.
um, I, so much about what I know about your work and what you've done for so long is really organizing and also culture change work around care and care economies, care as a value, care as a kind of almost organizing principle for the world. I want to know first, before we get into that, um, is there an early story you have about, kind of realizing the centrality of care in our world?
Hmm. Let's see. I wouldn't say there's one story, but kind of a set of stories and experiences that built on each other from my personal life to the work that I was doing with domestic workers in New York, where I just found that the most profound guides in my life, in terms of what matters most and values, have been caregivers, starting from my
Mm,
grandmother, who
mm,
played a huge role in raising me from the time I was 6 months old. She was a caregiver in her profession, she was a nurse. But she also was a caregiver for this extended family village in her world, in her community, and she was a person who always felt like there was going to be a way forward no matter what. And
mm,
whether or not she really believed that, she embodied that. And so
mm,
anytime I would have a complaint with about things, or I would have just be negative, she would always say, well, stop complaining and fix it, do something. And
mm,
she just had to believe, I think, from the standpoint of somebody who spent most of her time every day, every waking hour, figuring out how to care for the people that she loves in her family and in her community, that I think she was kind of convinced that there would always be a way forward when you're grounded in love for your family, your people, your community. And I've kind of carried that, and I see it in action with the care workers and the domestic workers and the family caregivers that I've met along the way. It's always been so rooted in this profound clarity that love brings to as an organizing principle for their lives, and
mm.
the optimism that's not naive but is determined, um, that that emerges from that place of love.
I have a question coming to me, but I just want to check. Michael, is the connection okay? You are breaking up a little bit for me, Ai-jen, but I just want to make sure that it'll be okay on the other side.
Oh no.
I'm the problem then, right? Is that what that means? Okay. 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 Let me just close a couple things so that I don't miss
I'll do
some
the
key
same.
points. Okay.
Let
It's
me
always
do the
like, do I
same.
need all these tabs open? Probably not. Okay. Okay.
All right, let me close. There we go. All right, that should be better on my end too.
Oh yeah, that sounds better. Yeah, for
Oh,
me.
good.
Um, yeah. I think what I'm chewing on right now is, when you talk about that almost eternal optimism, it feels so core to me because it's like care is that always reaching for each other, taking care of the people around us that need that support. There is something kind of in care that is infused with that. Um, I don't know if it's optimism, but it's at least like we're going to figure this out together. I think
That's
about
right.
how connective care is. I'm like, care is what connects us in so many ways. And yet
Hmm.
it feels like this really invisible fabric underneath everything that it's almost hard for us to acknowledge. Why do you think that is? Like, why is it hard for us even to name the labor of care, name the effort of care, name the skillfulness even of caring for each other? Why is that so difficult, or do you think it is?
Well, it is so natural in terms
Mhm.
of it being such a fundamental part of the human experience. There really is no human being that exists without care. From the time we're
Right.
born to the time we leave this earth, we are reliant upon care and also providing it in many different ways. And because it is so foundational, I think it becomes very easy, kind of like the ground we stand on, to not
Yeah.
see it and to take it for granted. And as our existence have has evolved over time, we have created so many systems and structures with a logic that just takes it for granted. And a
Right.
story about independence, about
Right.
individual identity, about so many things that really does take it for granted when it is like the invisible infrastructure that is powering it's that life force that is making everything else possible. And so it's like a tricky thing because you don't want to make everything about care because then it becomes
Mm,
nothing. But then at a certain point, you do have to say, like, if we're to return to the fundamentals because it feels like we're losing everything, that may not be a bad thing because it might put into relief, like it might put into focus the
mm,
things that are most fundamental, like care, that we actually need to invest in to get to another place, to get to a better place with each other and in society.
so you're saying it might not be terrible if we almost overcorrect and apply care broadly to allow us to actually see the role that care is playing in our lives. Yeah. Yeah. I'm when you talk about the logic of the world that we're in, almost think that it's that kind of individualism. It's almost anti-care. I remember years ago I was thinking about patriarchy, and I was like, or individualism, and the story that I think gets told around that kind of like the individual rising above, doing everything on their own. But it has to be a story of omission. It has to be a story where you don't say, my partner, you know, made all the meals or took care of the kids, or my parents drove me to this after school program. It has to be a story of omission to tell a story of the individual. And it seems like we're kind of steeped in a culture that wants to tell those stories that are almost care as a negative, or almost even like it's like a denigration. It's almost, it's in a way it's almost worse than invisible. is is how it seems to me. It's like put in a position that's lower than not seen. It's almost just rejected deeply.
Mm. Well, this is a place where I've learned so much from my disabled colleagues, where disability, this idea of independence for
Yeah.
disabled people is so, so important because so much of the agency and humanity of disabled people has been really called into question by our systems. Like just the idea
Yeah.
that, so what disabled people have done is they've said, it's care and assistance that makes my independence possible. And so they've put
Right.
it in a different context where they basically are saying, no, care is not a nice to have. It's not
Yeah.
optional. It's so fundamental that without the assistance that I get every day, I can't get out of bed, can't go to school,
Right.
I can't live a whole life in the community connected to my family, basic things that we all take for granted. And they help me see that independence and care are actually
Mm,
connected, fundamentally
yeah.
connected, and that care is this enabler of our individual agency, and that
Mm,
we should see it as one part of a whole, right? That we
yeah.
live in this way that is interconnected and interdependent, and we are
Yeah.
independent beings who make choices, and that's really important, right? Both.
That's right. Yeah. I was doing some research for the embodiment work that I do, and we've been playing with this emotional maturity frame, and so I've been researching all of these models around how we mature as human beings, and a lot of the really classic models are very, it's like individual expression, individual realization. There's like a, you know, some are more or less linear than others. And I was, in examining these models and thinking about them, I was like, there's really no models, or there's some that are sort of emerging, that see the ability to care as a developmental skill, or like a sign of growth or maturity, that it's like it's actually also important, um, to care, not just for other people but for our own expansion, for our own deepening as people. So when you talk about independence being so closely related to care, I'm like, yeah, there's no way that we mature sort of individually without reaping the benefits of care or learning to care as part of our growth. um,
That's right. And
oh,
if
go
we
ahead.
keep it in a frame of everything is the individual without that bigger picture, we
Yeah.
end up in a situation where we feel like care is a burden, where we feel
Right.
alone and isolated. And sometimes it does feel like a burden. Like there's so many people out there who are doing the very best they can to take care of the people they love and still struggling around the basics to pay the bills, to and they're doing everything right by the book, right?
Right.
And it's because we haven't actually accounted for this bigger picture, which is that
Mm,
that care that makes everything else possible is not an individual commitment. It has to be a shared
right.
commitment as a society where we have to really support it. Otherwise, I mean, it is not your personal failure. If you are trying to pay the bills, take
Yeah.
care of your family, and you can't afford more than $10,000 a year for childcare or $100,000 a year for
Ai-jen.
elder care, that's not your fault, but you live every day as if it is because you've been told a story that it's your
Yeah.
personal responsibility and it's your individual, right? It's your fault that it's not working when it really isn't. It's that we collectively haven't made the appropriate commitment to care.
This is a big point. I have a 4-year old now, and I don't just have. We have a 4-year old. There's a 4-year old. It's a
There's
part
a
of my
fire.
family, and there's a 4-year old, um, soon to be 4-year old, and I'm at that kind of juncture of my life where I have a small child and I have aging parents,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm feeling that, like, a pressure on both sides, and I think
Mm-hmm.
about, like, there's some things I didn't understand until I got to that point. I didn't know actually what it meant to be a parent, especially in this society. For me, it's been one of the most isolating experiences of my life, and one of the most taxing when it comes to care. And I know that I'm not alone. You talked about the price of childcare. It's astronomical. Like, it's unbelievable to me what
Mm-hmm.
childcare costs. It's absolutely
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable. And I don't know how we do it. I don't know how other people do it. And I'm wondering, as you, like, look around in this moment and we see the big beautiful bill getting passed that undercuts so much of the infrastructure, I think, of healthcare, of care in general. Both, like, what are the concerns when you look out for people that are in my position or other positions of caring for other people? And what is possible when we center care? So kind of the both. Take us through the worst of it. What do you see? And then what becomes possible?
Mm.
I need to know personally.
Well, as another person in the sandwich, which we call a
Yeah.
panini because the pressure, like, it's the sandwich is a little bit too gentle a metaphor for
Oh,
it.
wow.
It
Yeah.
really is like the squeeze. And, I think it is so unnatural that
Yeah.
when we get to this moment where we're having children and our parents are in a different stage of life where they need more
Yeah.
assistance and they need a different set of supports, that becomes a vice for working age people like us. Like, that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is unnatural. You want to talk about
Yeah.
unnatural? That is really
Yeah.
unnatural. and
Right.
and it's because we have this kind of like, we have not been full throated in this commitment to care. And in our
Hmm.
country, we have been building, trying to solve this problem or address this challenge that we all face in patchwork, piecemeal ways. And so
Hmm.
other countries have universal childcare. They have, the UK has a year of paid leave for
Right.
new
Right.
parents. We have
Right.
0 days of paid leave at the federal level, which means that 1 in 4 moms goes to work within 2 weeks of giving birth in our country. Can you imagine 2 weeks after giving birth having to show up
No.
at work, and
No.
your body is just not healed?
No.
And
Yeah.
so it's just, and so what we put people through in this country is profoundly unnatural, and it's because we have been kind of in this ambivalence around our commitment to supporting people on these basic needs. And as time has gone on, where we now have, baby boomers aging
Yeah.
into retirement, like 10,000 people a day turning 65
Oh, wow.
and living longer than ever,
Yeah.
right? So the fastest growing segment of our population is 85 and older.
Wow. 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 Wow.
The
Wow.
number of people over the age of 85 is going to double by the year 2040. And we're just
Wow.
not set up, and it's all falling on individuals and individual families to try to navigate and figure it out. And what we do have is the strength and resilience of parents, of family caregivers, and of care workers. But
Yeah.
everyone is overstretched and undervalued in our system. If we actually invested and said, just like we said 60 years ago, we're going to have Medicare and Medicaid, and we're going to offer health care to these segments of our population. If we said we're going to invest in a new Social Security Act or a new framework that helps people afford childcare, helps people afford aging and disability care when they need it, and helps people take time off from work when they need to care for
Yeah.
themselves or their loved ones. It's actually so simple. And
Hmm.
yet we have just not done it. And at great peril, because most working age adults have to work outside of the home in order to make ends meet,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
our economy has developed and our demographic pressure has increased, but we have not adapted any of our policies or our culture to better support care. And if we did, it would unlock so much human potential and possibility. Imagine everybody knowing that their parents could have access to care in the home and community and live full lives for as long as they can, that every person with dementia would be able to have consistent
Hmm.
services and care so that they can maintain their dignity even as they lose their memory, that
Yeah.
every parent of a young child could go and pursue dreams for themselves and their kids,
Hmm.
knowing that their kids were in good hands during the day. Like, so simple and so big.
Hmm. So big. So big. I want to I want to lean into this question a little bit because I know that you've done work, policy work around domestic workers, around kind of recognizing the labor of domestic and care workers. Can you talk to me about like these are the things? I mean, you started to mention it, but these are the things that you would implement. If I said, "Ai-jen, what are 3 steps we can take? Like, what are 3 bills that you would pass in this moment? What would those be?"
I would make childcare, aging, and disability care um, affordable and accessible to everyone. And
Great.
especially in the home and community where most of us want to stay, we
Yeah.
have strong roots with our families and communities. And to know that for so many people, especially in rural communities, their only option is a nursing home. And a lot of
Hmm.
nursing homes are going to close because of cuts to Medicaid. And then there will
Wow.
be no option, right? Like
Wow.
just to know that we could actually change that. And
Right.
importantly,
Right.
it is possible to raise wages and make caregiving jobs good jobs, that you can
Mm.
actually support yourself and your family and do work that you feel passionate about. I mean, every care worker out there, nobody does it for the money.
Right. Right.
The
Right.
median
Right.
income of a home care worker apprentice right now is $22,000 per year in America.
Wow. Yeah.
But we could raise those wages and make them jobs that you can sustain and take pride in and support your family on. And one generation could do better than the next, just like we did for manufacturing jobs in the 30s.
Yeah.
Like these
Yeah.
could be the good jobs of the next era. And it's actually policy choices that we could make to raise those wages and make those jobs good jobs. And frankly, we should make staying at home to take care of your loved one also a viable economic option, right?
Absolutely.
And it's just not for too many people. So I guess what I'm saying is I would
Hmm.
pass a whole bunch of policies that make choices, the choice to care, real
Mm.
in today's economy.
In today's economy, let's talk about today. I want to make a hard pivot to a little bit of the culture of the moment and just your thoughts. And this is just some of the stuff I'm thinking about related to care. And one of those things is, I look at how do I speak about all of this delicately? um, I look at one worldview that's being offered that's saying, "Hey, we do see care work, and there are certain people that should do that, women
Mm,
primarily,
mm,
and they should
mm,
do that only in the home." You're talking about choice, but I think folks are saying, "Oh, I see care work. It should be done by women, and it should be done only, in this kind of configuration, this a specific kind of nuclear family." And in a way, I recognize that as going, okay, well, there's an acknowledgement of care
mhm,
as necessary. We have to care for children, we have to care for aging parents,
mhm,
but it eliminates the choice. It eliminates choice and it eliminates the role of our government in
mhm,
creating options for people. So, I think there has been, how do I say this? Well, I don't want to indict. I don't want to, do any indictments. But I
yeah,
think what I
yeah,
what I really feel deeply is like, oh, I see an acknowledgement of care that maybe doesn't feel as maybe is given lip service to, or we talk about in other areas or places that I'm in. But I see a recognition of care, but
yep,
I see an undermining of choice. And
yep.
um, what are your thoughts on that, or how are you making sense of those kind of trends in our political discourse of the moment?
Well, you just have to look around at what's happening in our community to know that that acknowledgement of care isn't real until you change other dynamics in the economy. Like
Mm,
the reality is that in America today, 60% of working people earn less than $60,000 per year. So we're talking about people who are
Dang.
going to work every day, and people and work is not paying the bills for people. Now,
Right. Right.
in that context, if you cannot, in so many instances, you can't have a household where any adult is not working to help pay the bills.
Right.
And then you can't actually pay out of pocket for childcare or elder care because you don't earn enough to do that. And so you're
Right.
kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So it's not a real option for people to stay home. If every woman in America said, I want to stay home to take care of the kids and take care of my parents, it wouldn't work because no one
Hmm.
could afford their rent, their food, their transportation,
Right.
right? It's just
Right.
the math isn't mathing. And
That's
so
right.
what I want is like a real solution. I love every recognition of care, but I want
Mm.
one that is grounded in an economic reality that creates real choices and opportunity for people. And we are going the opposite direction. I mean,
Yeah.
the only jobs that, like, there's so many low wage jobs in our country, and a lot of those jobs we saw in the pandemic are essential jobs, right? In the
Hmm.
service
Hmm.
industries, in the care sector. And those jobs are jobs that have low wages, no benefits, no job security, no access to a safety net. The jobs that do have more job security and access to benefits are jobs that are knowledge worker jobs. They're white collar
Yeah.
jobs. And a lot of those jobs are under threat from AI.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so we're trending in the opposite direction from where we need to go for there to be a real choice for people to stay home with their kids. So I think
Right.
you can't solve one challenge without the other. And the reality is, I mean, no one should tell us how we live our lives, right? Like, this idea that care is enabling of agency, of choice, of freedom is a very American idea. Like, we're
Mm.
freedom, real freedom in this country relies on care. And that's the
Yeah.
piece that we've never actually like designed for.
Okay. I am 100% with you and everything you're saying. I align with you. I feel juiced about it. And then I look outside or I look into my phone and I see that we are, in my opinion, kind of, when you talk about we're going in the wrong direction, it's like the culture of cruelty
Mm,
that I see in this moment makes what you're saying seem more and more impossible in a way. And almost, um, in a strange way, I think about the undermining of care as almost contributing to cruelty. It has this like weird,
mm,
it's like the more cruel we are, the more cruel we feel towards other people
mm,
almost.
mm,
And I feel this quickening around it. And it's something I have not wrapped my mind around. I really just want to think with you around it. It's like, what is the interruption to the tone? And I don't expect you to have an answer to this, but where care and empathy seem oppositional to the program,
mm,
how do we address it on that fundamental a level? And I've seen you, over the years, you're someone that has really brought this work forward in a real widespread way. Like people are talk about care in a way because of the work that you and the other organizers that you've worked with over the years have done. And I'm looking at this moment and I'm going, I don't even know how we can talk about care without that feeling charged or
mhm,
counter to a culture that seems, I'm gonna say, hell bent on
mhm.
undermining the even impulse towards caring for each other. I don't know if you do you see
Yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of thing? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really know where this metaphor comes from, but the like this idea that you get the flywheel going in a certain direction and it just keeps, and I do think you're right. It's like fear and cruelty
Yeah.
drive the flywheel in this direction, that where it feels like we're on a kind of path of no return. And I do think that care and empathy and agency are how we get the flywheel going in the other direction.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
doesn't happen in a vacuum. It has to happen together. And I
Right.
have a lot of hope, because when I go into rooms today in 2025, if you ask people, which I do at the beginning of meetings or whenever I'm talking to people or I'm gathered in community, we just start the meeting by asking people to turn to the person sitting next to them and share a story about someone who's cared for them and what that relationship means to them in their lives, or someone that
Yeah.
they've cared for. And everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Everyone has a story. And when you start there,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the starting point for the energy in the room changes.
Yeah. That's right.
The
That's
way
right.
people see each other is totally different. And all of a sudden you've touched into something that is so connective that it's like a
Mm.
live wire. And that lifeline is, I think, the lifeline of democracy right now.
Come
Finding
on.
finding that point of connection, and the way that we all are trying to care and show up is I think a big part of the solution.
I felt a little chill. I felt a little, you know, I have
I
very
mean,
embodied reactions when it hits. I'm like, "Hey, I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something."
I hope so. I mean, I've made a big 25-year bet on it.
I
People call me
do
the
I
crazy
was
care lady, you know?
the crazy care lady. Well, thank you for being willing to be the crazy care lady for so long. I was talking to a group of organizers not too long ago, a couple months ago, and we had this conversation. And this is when I really thought of you, because we were like, "What is the intervention?" And in the conversations we were talking about, care was the word that just kept
Mm,
showing up. Because even when we look at the way that men are being organized in this moment, really intentionally,
mm,
that part of the hook is saying, um, your role and how you care is
mhm,
being undermined by this faction or group of people. Now, I think, they're kind of taking care, and like we talked about earlier, it's like we don't have actually the underpinnings to support the kind of care, and maybe the kind of care that has been offered needs some remixing, needs to actually
totally,
breathe a little bit, get some new information in. But part of what's so
100%.
compelling is that people are going, "Oh, I have a role. Oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know the way I'm supposed to care. And these people don't like the way that I care or the way that I show care." And I'm like, yeah, there's a warping that's happening, but a lot of it feels centered around how people care for each other, how we
That's
show
right.
care, what our role is. And to what you're talking about, this kind of care that is deeply connective,
Mhm,
has a different kind of power to it. It's less reactionary in a way, but also deeply humanizing and um, creative and connective and all these things. I think it gives me that chill to be like, how do we do what you're talking about around these big questions that people are facing, around care and who they are?
that's why I hang out with caregivers,
Mm,
because it's like, when a lot of times when people
mm,
become caregivers, it's a little different with parents, but when you become a caregiver, oftentimes it's in a moment of crisis where you
mm.
feel a total loss of control.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and and you still figure out how to show up for the person you love. You find a way forward, just like my grandma, right?
Yeah.
And and that ability, amidst a total feeling of loss of control of your loved one, of whatever it
Hmm.
is, you figure out how to show up and like help that person feel cared for, feel a sense of humanity and dignity, even amidst
Wow.
a sense of loss or illness or disability. And I think we as a
Mm.
country, in different ways, and are all grappling with the feeling of loss of agency and control. And if we can tap into our inner caregiver
Mm.
collectively, and
Mm.
just remember we have agency
Wow.
and we don't have to choose hate or cruelty. We can actually choose to show up for each other as human beings.
Wow.
That is within us. And if we could tap into
Hmm.
that and actually feel what that feels like to actually reclaim our agency, woo, I think we could get the flywheel going in the right direction.
I love how you're talking about agency. Like it really gets me excited to think about this kind of connective agency and not, just kind of the singular by myself agency, but like the caring for someone so that they feel their own agency, having agency in our care. I don't know, there's something very exciting to me about that, and I think it's really astute to think about this moment of like people kind of relinquishing their agency because of that overwhelm. And what can we learn from caregivers who experience that uncertainty, that overwhelm, the dramatic shift in their life and conditions and the conditions of the lives of people they love? How do you find nurture agency even in that moment? Feels, yeah, like a really important learning. um Go ahead.
No, yeah. I think that's right. And I don't want to idealize the experience of caregiving because it is so challenging and so fraught
Yeah.
and every day is different. But if we think about the fact that today in our country there's 62 million family caregivers who are spending 20 hours a week, caring for a loved one who is disabled or chronically ill or aging and showing up over and over again, I find that to be very energizing, right? At a moment when we all
Hmm.
feel so depleted, there is a way that there are miracles happening in our
Wow.
country against all odds, that is about supporting humanity. And we should count that. That counts.
That's right.
It
That's right.
counts.
That's right. That's right. Right. We can choose to see what's here. We can choose to learn the lessons of what's already happening instead of only being reactive to what we're told. It's like we can choose to see this world. So I want to talk a little bit with you about, um, well, let me actually think as a human being about where I want to go, not as a host. I don't think I want to pin you in a corner with that question like I was maybe going to. Um, no, I think I'm going to ask you this question, but I'm going to give you a lot of space in it.
Yeah.
Um, you, I listened to a speech of yours where you quoted Vincent Harding, and you said that I'm a citizen of a nation that has yet to come into being. And um, I, think about this American experiment um, in democracy and pluralism. I also think about the resistance to the some of those experiments and how that's always followed. Um, but I guess the question that I've been in for a while is like, is this? Do you see this as a worthwhile experiment to keep pushing or cultivating rather, um, democracy here for us? Does it still feel worthwhile for you? I think this moment can just be so despairing. So I just want to name what I think a lot of people are feeling. It's like a kind of despair, a giving up, but like this, this project hasn't ever been for me. Do you still find value in this sometimes really horrible class project that we've been assigned together?
Absolutely, I do.
Mm,
Unequivocally, I
mm,
believe that what my friend Heather McGee says, that this
mm,
country is the most ambitious experiment in democracy in the history of the world. And
yeah,
she describes how there were indigenous people in these lands, and then people brought here against their will in the transatlantic slave trade, and then generations of migrants from every corner of
yeah,
this world, every
yeah,
culture, every religion, every nationality, and in waves. And then they
mm,
tell us that we're one country.
yeah,
And that project is really ambitious.
yeah, yeah,
That is a
yeah,
very
yeah.
ambitious project. And that her reminder of that is helpful to me. And I think in this moment when there's so much despair, what I keep this image that I keep thinking of is an image that Monifa Bendelli from Moms Rising kind of put in my head. She said, what if it were about a phoenix rising in this moment?
Hmm.
That what if the
Yeah,
destruction and the dismantling created more space for the truth and the love and the care and the democratic commitment to this
mm,
project to emerge anew for this next era. And I just keep holding this idea that everything that feels like it might be crumbling, it could just be the opening for the kind of renewal that we need in
yeah,
this country, where people don't have to work incredibly hard and still be food insecure, where people don't have to worry about this impossible choice between caring for their loved one and going to work, where
mm,
more than that, we are supported in our commitment to care and to realizing our, you know, our contributions, our creativity and our ability to make this community in this country a better place. Like, that could be what's on the other side of this.
that's interesting.
And so to be able to help each other imagine what comes next and have that be the North Star that we are holding as we navigate these dark waters is,
Yeah,
I think, is it's an incredible opportunity, really. There's more space than ever to imagine the future differently. And I think if we hold that, it gives us renewed hope in this project. And I think I learn a lot from domestic workers. I mean, the domestic workers who are undocumented, working in isolated conditions, afraid to get on public transportation, afraid for their kids on their way to school, um, and they still
yeah,
show up not just to work and not just to care, but to be a part of an organization that's helping other domestic
yeah.
workers, that's making these jobs better jobs. That is a commitment in this project.
Mm, yeah. I
That
see
is a
what you're saying. Yeah.
futurist. They are futurists.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they are believing, even though they can't quite totally draw a
Mm,
picture for us yet, they're reaching for what's next. And I think they deserve what's next, and we got to
mm.
reach for it together so we can get there.
That really hit me. I can be one of those people that feel like giving up on this, or thinking that everything inside of it is rotten. And I think we're all entitled to feel that at any point in
A
time. I was
hundred
sort of,
percent.
when you said unequivocally, I was like, dang, Ai-jen's going to say unequivocally. And part of what I hear and what you're saying too, especially about, domestic workers that show up to their work, to their lives, to organize, is we don't escape the question of governance. We
No,
don't escape this question of how we're going to build together, how we're going to govern. We don't escape it in any future. So, how do we invest in the future that is trying to emerge through domestic worker organizing, through this care work? That's sort of what's getting me energized. And what you're saying is like, oh, I can't escape this question. I cannot escape this question of governance, or what we put our attention on now, what we build now. And that means joining with, my grandmother, who was a teacher, then was my caregiver growing up, even though she was disabled, and also, work the polls,
exactly.
all the time. Like, she
Exactly.
was a part of a project that I feel that's the project I'm aligned with. What she was doing and the way she was working
Yep.
and experimenting inside of all this, that's what I feel aligned with. Yeah.
But
Mm.
at what is the fight right now is, what is the project? Is it going to
Yeah.
be your grandmother's project, or is it going
Right.
to be somebody else's project? And I'm for your grandma's project.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and that's what I'm fighting for. This vision that our ancestors believed in
Yes.
so wholeheartedly, even though they had no material basis to believe that things could be different or better, they still showed up to make it better. And that is the project that has to endure. And the only way it endures is if we feed it, is if we build it, is if we continue to
Mm.
nurture it. And so I say unequivocally to that. And I'm also
Mhm.
not going to lie and say that I don't wake up some days like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking to somebody who's like been doing this work for more than 2 decades. And I'm like, I do sometimes wonder, what has, where have, where have we, what has become
Yeah.
of the just untold amounts of organizing, of
Yeah. Yeah.
energy, of commitment, of dedication on the part of so many people,
Yeah.
um, to progress, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can't, my grandma would say, like, there's always a way forward.
Hmm.
And this is the test of our generation, is we were given this project, we were handed the baton at a particular time, and they're counting on us to fight for the project.
What a charge, Ai-jen. It's like when people say, we're born for this time, or we chose this time. I didn't choose this time. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think I did that.
Okay, I mean, I listen, I just
But
said
I'm
that
here. But I'm
yesterday.
here.
But I'm here. I'm here.
But I'm here. I'm here, and with so much honor for all of our grandmothers, for care workers, for the care that we all engage in every day. I'm here with that, and I want to honor that. And I'm grateful to you for all the work you've done for kind of holding this particular part of the light, in this time. And I think it's work that is obviously going to become increasingly um, clear why it's so important. Um, I'll just put it like that. So thank you, Ai-jen. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your work and commitment and your clarity. I think it's exactly what we need.
Well, thank you for um, everything you're doing to bring the light and keep it glowing, inside of us and in the world,
Hmm.
because those two sources of light are interdependent, just like care.
That's right. Beautiful. Thank you so much.